What is making amends and why is it so important? This is Jackie for RX for Joy, and I hope you are enjoying this series about guilt and shame. This is such an important topic, and it's really been on my heart as I've struggled with it, and I know a lot of people who do also. Some years ago, a family visited us, and the young boy punched out our screen on our screen door. It was an accident, but it was extensive damage. There were a few I'm sorry's, but that was it. There was no offer to repair it or help pay to repair it. I didn't really feel like the sorry's were enough or even sincere. Why? Because there was no making of amends. So, what is making amends? The dictionary says it is a verb to change or modify for the better. I'll define it this way: to do something good to show that you are sorry about something you have done. And biblically, I think this is what God wants us to do. He wants us to make things right in our relationship. If you have hurt someone, it needs to be repaired. And the healing of the relationship is so worth it. And making amends shows real remorse or sorrow. Let me tell you a story. Jesus met a tax collector named Zacchaeus. He went to his home, and during the time where they were talking, Zacchaeus repented. He recognized what he had been doing wrong in his own life, and he wanted to follow Jesus. Luke 19:8. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." So his actions demonstrated his new life. He was acknowledging that he had hurt other people. In Matthew 5:23 through 24, Jesus tells us a good principle. If you are standing at the altar, in other words, you're worshiping God, and you remember that somebody has something against you, stop. Go first and be reconciled. To be reconciled means you go and make amends and the relationship is restored. You then have a clear conscience to be able to worship God. When I was a new Christian, I heard a teaching about this, and I asked God to show me if I had done something that needed to be repaired, to make amends. And I remembered that early before I was a Christian, I had cheated my employer. I had called in sick, and that was a lie. I thought, oh, well, that was before I was a believer, and I'm forgiven now, and I don't really have any extra money to make this right. What should I do? But that reminder kept coming back into my mind, and the guilt, the shame just became like a burden to me. It was really humbling, but I wrote my former employer. I included a check for the day that I felt like I had cheated him. And then I felt like that was over. I had done what I could do. If you hurt someone emotionally, it's a little harder. It's not like you can write a check and make things right. And part of the process will be to show true remorse. Colossians 3, verses 12 through 13. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. That's the kind of true remorse: compassionate hearts, kindness, humility. We must go humbly to the other person, not making excuses. and we listen patiently to them and hear their heart. We take responsibility for our part, not forcing them to admit what their part was. And then we can ask, what can I do to make this right? According to these verses in Colossians, we ask them to forgive us, just as we have been forgiven by God. And then I think we have to give them some time to process this and come to a point where they can forgive us. And we need to change our behavior and our attitudes towards them. This process of asking for forgiveness and giving forgiveness, it should be characteristic of the Christian life. It is part of the love one another that Jesus commanded us to do. And yet I see so many relationships that are hurting. Someone who's bitter against someone else and wanting to get back at them or just cut them out of their lives. A good friend of mine was deeply hurt in a very public meeting. She went home and cried. But then, do you know what she did? Because she was a mature Christian, she went and served that man's family. This is what the Bible says to those who have been hurt. Mark 11:25. And whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also, who is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. So we are to forgive, we are to ask for forgiveness for our part. And hopefully God will bring grace so that we can restore our relationships. Here's my RX for joy today. Apologize for the hurt, for the wrong actions, for the wrong words. Ask for forgiveness with true remorse and be willing to do something to make things right.